our agenda today.
I move. I second.
Terrific. That's great. How about the minutes? Has everyone had a chance to read them?
Andrew, make a motion to approve the minutes as read.
I second as well.
All right, the minutes are approved.
Duo.
Howdy. Okay. Want to give Kalia her map? Okay, as you probably know, it's next week that the MTA committee meetings and board meeting are, but I do have some things to report. The reason I handed out the map is I had a hand in helping to edit it and draft it. It's not perfect, but it is an improvement over the old Vignelli map for sure, which was really geographically not accurate. This is more accurate, and this is great for showing where transfers can take place. Obviously, the best map ever would be a real-time map, and we are going to get those in the stations on electronic billboards, which is something everybody needs. You want to know what's running when you're looking at the map, not what's running in the middle of the night or weekends or rush hour. So that's coming. And the new map has been on electronic boards and also in the R211 trains, not in the other trains yet. They're being put into the other train, a smaller one that'll fit into the map window. Take a look at the map when you have your leisure time and see what you think of it. It is always a work in progress. They're looking at doing a revamp of the commuter rail map as well. And they're going to do an all-night map, which hopefully will be on the back of the pocket copy of this. So when you look at it, the other side will be the night map. But on the screens in the stations, you're going to see real-time maps, which is what we really want to move to. That's the most accurate map. What's going on right then and there. For instance, there's some 2 or 3 or 4 stations on the 7 line and on the J line that have service in one direction because they're doing structural improvements. That can't be shown, but on a real-time map, it can be. And so we're moving to that area, and I think it's going to be very exciting. Also, you have heard, of course, the latest threat from Transportation Secretary Duffy. If we don't end congestion pricing by May 21st, the new deadline date, he's going to stop not only transit money, but highway money and EPA money, environmental money. Nothing that will affect safety, he claims, but all the other things. So, you know, I think Chair Lieber and Governor Hochul have said the right things. We will change this when a court tells us to change this. And if you saw what Secretary Duffy did, he released some emails that he probably didn't want to, which were from some legal minds that told him you don't really have a very good case. Hopefully that's true, because this is working, and many other cities, unfortunately, particularly the SEPTA system in Philly and the CTA system in Chicago, are undergoing or approaching their fiscal cliffs. And we don't want to see massive service cuts, massive fare hikes. That is not how you build transit ridership. We need that money, and it needs to keep coming. So the May 21st is the new date. I don't expect everything. And most people think it's going to go through to the fall before a court makes a decision. And if it's Judge Lyman, I have a lot of faith that he knows what's right. And I think we'll be in good hands for that. Some people have complained, and rightfully so, about the new student Omni cards, which were cardboard and which were garbage and which have already broken in many cases. The new ones are being issued by later this year. They realize that have to be plastic. Cardboard does not work in a system like ours or in a pocket like anybody might have. Cardboard rips, breaks, it's just no good. So those are coming. One of the things that came out of Secretary Duffy's threats are the MTA carries almost 50% of the nation's transit riders, yet gets 17% of the federal funding. What is wrong with that picture? And he wants to cut our lousy 17%? Come on. We need a much, much better formula for getting transit funding. I mean, well, that too, yeah. Another piece of good news is that the Delancey Essex complex, the J, the Z, the F, and the M is going to be made accessible. People have been calling for that important Lower East Side hub to be made accessible, and it's going to happen. And the beauty is we're doing 3, 4, 5 at a time now. We're saving money. They're getting done faster and they're getting done more reasonably. So this is really good news. And by the way, this new map really easily shows you what stations are accessible, where you can transfer within a hub. It is not perfect, but it's going to be made better and better. We have that guarantee from the makers of this map. And here's some really good news. Thanks to the governor and out-of-borough transit funds and some other funding mechanisms, on June 29th, the following buses are going to see a big increase in service. The BX10, Riverdale to Norwood in the Bronx, the BX17, Port Morris to Fordham Plaza, the BX23, Co-op City to the Pelham Bay Subway, BX28 and BX38, Co-op City to Fordham Plaza in Brooklyn, the B17, Crown Heights to Canarsie, B26, Fulton Street to Ridgewood, B74, Seagate to the Coney Island Stillwell Station, B103, Canarsie to downtown Brooklyn. In Queens, Q13, Flushing to Fort Totten, Q28, Bayside to Flushing, Q35, Rockaway Park to Midwood. That's an important one. That's wow. That's a bridge bus. Q43, Jamaica to Floral Park, Q66, Flushing to Long Island City, Q69, Long Island City to Astoria, and on Staten Island, the S46 and the S96, which are Castleton Avenue, and the S79, which goes from the Staten Island Mall to Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. All of those bus lines are getting increases in service. And now, yeah, Sharon.
Do you have any, how much, like?
I know, I will find out.
Everything?
At next week's meetings, I'm sure I'll find out. I asked that question too. But those are very strategic, some of those bus lines. So you may have heard, I'm sure you have, the federal government has decided that Amtrak will be in charge of the Penn Station renovation. Not the two biggest surveyors of service to the station, Long Island Railroad and New Jersey Transit, but Amtrak will do it just to stick it to the MTA from the federal government, which is obvious what they're doing. We will see where this goes. We have been part of, Randy and Jerry Brinkman and myself have been part of this group that has been overseeing called SWAG, Station Working Advisory Group. We've been going to meetings on an almost monthly basis. I expect those meetings will now no longer take place, as they don't want MTA to be a part of this at all. This is going to be Amtrak's thing. We will see where this leads. It's probably not good, though. I suspect it's going to take years and years before we see anything happen there, because just as the federal government doesn't want to give the MTA money, I don't think it wants to give the city of New York money either. He's got a hard on for us, you know, so hopefully things will progress. That is a very important station, and not the MTA all you want, but if you look at the Long Island Railroad and the way they redid their concourse on 33rd Street, 7th to 8th Avenue, it's bright, it's sunny, there's a destination board on every vertical pole. I mean, it's really not, everybody says, wow, this is really nice when they walk through the Long Island part of Penn Station now. And of course, the Moynihan Train Hall that Amtrak uses as its main hub is beautiful. Beautiful. So it's the New Jersey Transit and some of the intervening passageways on the old part of Penn Station that really need work. Yes. Oh, our speakers here?
Yes, they are.
Oh, well, this is the perfect place to bring them in.
Sure. Just want to keep you on track.
Wonderful. Want to keep everyone on schedule, as Andy Byford would say. Hey, Chief Kemper, how are you? Good to see you. It's afternoon.
Yes.
Oh. So we're really so happy to see you gentlemen today. There are so many issues regarding security and getting riders back on board, and some of the odd incidents that we have seen take place, such as people entering transit yards who should not be there, people with keys to conductors' cabins. Where did they get those? I mean, people taking trains for rides and of course, the usual security issues. So we are so pleased that Chief Kemper could be with us and
Gabby Saliba.
Gabby Saliba, yes. And your title is Chief of Security for Transit or
No, VP of Security for Transit, yes.
VP of Security for Transit? Well, that's great. People have told us that they see more police officers. They do feel safer.
My wife.
I also see continue to see lots of homeless taking up tons of seats on the trains. I report those when I see them with a picture and the car number. And John Addeo has told me that Lieutenant Addeo, that he has taken care of these things.
Yeah.
And but we understand there's also a new head of MTA Police. So I'm sure you're going to tell us about all these things. So welcome, Chief Kemper.
Thank you. And first of all, good afternoon. Could everyone hear me on Zoom or Teams? Good afternoon, and I'll briefly introduce myself. I'll pass it off to Gabby Saliba. I'm Mike Kemper, I'm the Chief Security Officer for the MTA. I was in this room a year or so ago, give or take.
Maybe.
Yes.
I was wearing a uniform at that time. I was the Chief of Transit for the NYPD. I retired to take this opportunity. I retired in September, 6-7 months ago.
And we're so glad we didn't lose you.
Yeah, you know what? I definitely made the right decision, and I'm happy. My days are busy, and it's filled with a lot of what I was doing, that whole world, and certainly stock differences also. But I've been here about 6-7 months, and I've learned a lot. But yes, I'll just briefly touch before I kick it to Gabby. And Gabby's a retired NYPD inspector, which is a executive rank, a high rank. And Gabby and I know each other. We work together for a part of our careers. Maybe toward the end, not in transit, but in Brooklyn. And Gabby was you'll hear him. He was a big pickup, huge pickup. But he'll get into that. Just to touch on your point, yes, yesterday was a big day for the MTA Police Department, really the MTA as a whole, with the announcement and the appointment of a new chief of police. That chief of police is Thomas Taffy. Most of you know him, or may know him, some of you don't. But Thomas Taffy was the chief of operations, which is a 3-star rank at the MTA Police Department prior to being appointed chief of police. And he was in that role for 3 years, give or take. And prior to that assignment, he came off a 27-year career at the NYPD, where he retired as a deputy chief. You know, I'm real happy and I'm real confident with Tom's appointment as chief of police. I think we did real well with that, and just having someone at his caliber, and I mean this, having someone at his caliber willing and wanting that job is a big deal for us. So,
Does he replace Chief Galata then?
no, so let me explain how it's worked. Chief Galata is the chief of transit for the NYPD. He replaces Chief Muller. Everyone remember Chief John Muller?
Yeah.
So Chief John Muller left the end of December, early January. Tom Taffy was acting in his placement, and he was named. We took the acting away. He's the chief of police effective yesterday. And maybe we'll get, if you want, Andrew, let me know. Maybe we could have Chief Taffy come here and introduce himself, and
Sure.
you could go at him.
We'd love to meet him.
But with that, I'll pass it off to Gabby, and certainly anyone in this room or anyone on Zoom land has any questions, we're here and we'll try and get you the answers you need.
Chief, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Pleasure to be here. Obviously, Chief told me about this meeting last week. Was looking forward to coming, want to meet you all. To start a couple of months ago. It is absolute opportunity that I could not pass up, just to be able to kind of join the MTA here, working with Chief Camper again, and just getting to work, especially in the security work. Chief mentioned I did 21 years in the NYPD. I had a great time, really great time, and learned a lot. And what I'm looking to do is kind of pass off some of that experience and share it here at the MTA, and try to do my best to help the mission. So I do oversee the security department for New York City Transit, obviously under Demetrius and there. So really excited to be here with you this morning.
So we understand there's no questions. You came here because everyone's happy and that's it, right?
Oh, I have a question.
Uh-oh. I was joking.
Was a joke.
Oh, okay.
You have a question on something that's been said already, or
No, not yet.
Okay.
we'll get to questions.
Yeah.
Trust me. So, can you tell us how you think things are going and how people have been able to get access to subway trains that are parked somewhere or into yards or?
So Andrew, it's interesting, and as you were talking, this isn't staged or set up. I didn't know what you were gonna open with. And you certainly didn't know my calendar today and this morning already.
No.
And Gabby, we literally just came off a conversation with the NYPD about the topic of cabin train.
Wow,
We call
good
it.
timing.
Yeah, but yeah, we just, and we speak all the time. Today was just our routine weekly, sometimes multiple times a week conversation, and we spent 45 minutes speaking about this topic, where we stand, what's going on, and what our plans are moving forward. It was a good conversation. There are a lot of plans. There is a lot of work being done about that. You want me to give it to Gabby to just touch on that, and I'll touch on it also, feed off each other maybe.
Sure.
And then, again, any questions in relation to this topic, just feel free to just ask away. But it is a topic of concern, serious concern. Department, the NYPD, we're working with hand in hand. And they've made some significant arrests in this area. I think the big takeaway for me and for everyone is the ages of the individuals that are doing that, breaking into the subway cabs, trying to move it, sometimes having success. We're talking about young folks, so.
And that's exactly what I was going to start is the age group is probably the most concerning of this all, apart from the action itself. You talking about young people, it's 16 years old, school age kids, high school age folks. And when these incidents happen, and the fact that we have such a great camera system in the subway and in the train cars.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that has been number one for us, that when there's a reported incident and we do investigation, that we are able to retrieve such great quality type video where we are able to view those videos in working with the NYPD in their specialized units there. Sometimes they see these kids as repeat offenders. They are able to recognize those individuals very, very quickly and be able to make arrests very quickly. The number of incidents is alarming in terms of the frequency of it, and social media does not help us out at all. Because what happens is a kid, and I say kid, again, we're talking about 14, 15-year-old kids here. They would commit an act like that, and part of that world is to record their actions, post it on social media, use it as a recruiting tool, right, to get more people on board to do these actions. And what you have is copycatters, right? You have kids that are inexperienced, for lack of a better term, and go and try to do these things. But the good news, I think what the chief mentioned here is our partnership with the NYPD and the MTAPD in investigating these incidents. None of these incidents are going without any type of investigation because one way or the other, we're gonna find out about it, right? Some of the MOs that they may use is as the train is going in this direction, the kids will be on the other end of the train, right? And then they'll try to gain access into the other end of the cabin. They'll go in there. They'll do things as serious as, vandalism, pulling on the emergency brake. There's a horn button within this cabin that
They love the horn.
they've made a challenge out
The
of this.
32 train, they had the intercom and you could talk
They love it.
across the trains. Yeah.
They absolutely love it. But what that does though, right? And it may sound like child's play, but it's costing us, right? It is costing us because the trains can't operate. You gotta take those trains out of service. You gotta replace the horn button, obviously, for emergency purposes. When that emergency brake is pulled, the conductors, the operators, they gotta do an investigation and see if it's real.
When you get some of these individuals, do you ask them where they got the key?
Yeah, so let me jump on that. Let me jump on something else. Another challenge in relation to the ages, and why do we bring that up, is they're considered juveniles when they're a certain age. And, a 14-year-old, 16-year-old, a 15-year-old, they're considered juveniles by law, by New York State law. So what does that mean? That means when they get arrested, and trust me, the NYPD, we know who these kids are. And they do this for the attention. They put it up on social media for the attention, clout, all of that good stuff in their world, which is bad.
Yeah.
They don't get prosecuted in criminal court when you're a juvenile. You get prosecuted in family court. And the consequences, and some may agree, some may not. The consequences are not the same. As a 14-year-old getting arrested for committing a crime versus a 27-year-old or a 35-year-old, if that makes sense. So what we're seeing is a lot of these kids are repeat offenders. We're seeing also a lot of these kids are subway enthusiasts. What do I mean by that? They're just fascinated in so many ways with the subway system. I didn't forget your question with the keys. I'll talk to you about that.
That's good, thanks.
And there's a lot of crossover between the same groups of kids that are doing this with inside the cabins as the subway surface. A lot of crossover with that. As far as if they're arrested or when they're arrested, they usually always have some sort of MTA paraphernalia on them. What do I mean by that? Sometimes they have keys, sometimes they have the vest, sometimes they have radios. How are they getting them? Multiple different ways. Usually the uniform paraphernalia, it's when an MTA employee sometimes leaves it unsupervised, if you will, and they snatch the vest. The keys the same way. Sometimes they're unsecured by an employee, and more often than not, they're purchasing them online. And they're making them through 3D printers, these keys. With that said, part of our conversation today was follow-up to prior conversations. And we're always looking, how could we harden our assets? What do I mean by that? How could we secure them better? And a lot of what we're doing is really taking a look at the infrastructure, the rolling stock, and changing locks. Purchasing locks that are, the keys are not able to reproduce them through 3D technology. That's really where we are also. We're also exploring technology this is just conversations. We're not there yet. But we are exploring current technology that would virtually make it impossible or extremely hard to actually move a New York City subway car, even with the key. And how does that look? too early to tell. Infancy stages, here's what I can say, high-level conversations are being had. We're having these discussions with tech companies and also our peers around the world, other transit. Okay. Other transit agencies, that have experienced are going through the same challenge, but I don't know what I missed on that.
No, exactly right. I mean, literally, what's today, Thursday? On Tuesday, I was at one of our maintenance facilities, doing a walkthrough and a demo with our, Department of Subways engineers. In looking at different ways and different options to hardening the target a little bit, right? I have this model of soft target and hard target, and you want to be a hard target, right? Put things in place that would really make it very, very hard for these individuals. One is the entry, right? To try to actually get to the actual devices to make the train run. And then the second part, to the chief's point, is the technology. What does that look like to not be able to move the train, especially someone that is not a train conductor, right?
Like
So
touch codes or something.
something to that effect.
Technology as in like fingerprint.
We're
type of
we're
mechanism, like
exploring
Oh,
Facial IDs.
codes. We're exploring, everything's on the table. What we're
Great.
looking for is an
Okay.
effective product. And that's the challenge that we put out there in the world. Who's got the effective product? The New York City subway system, it seems, I'll speak personally. It seems easy, and I'm not a tech guy.
Yeah.
Here's what I do know. It's 2025. There's got to be some sort of tech, that could get this accomplished. But the system being the system in New York City, the different types of train cars, the different types of builds, the tunnels, the above ground, it sort of makes what seems like somewhat of a simple fix much more complex. It's not a simple conversation, that I can assure you. Because if it was a simple conversation, I wouldn't be saying we're still exploring. I would have said we're there and it's already installed. But I think the key takeaway is we're aware of it. We're working with our partners in law enforcement to correct it. That's through prevention, infrastructure upgrades, sharing intelligence, and then following up with prosecutors. But just going to be very honest with you, it's a challenge because of the ages of these kids. It should concern everyone.
do all of the yards have the same level of security as of this time?
All of the what?
All of the subway yards?
Yes, so obviously the subway yards, right, they're not all created equal in terms of size, in terms of makeup. I think really one of the things that the Department of Subways really should be given credit for is how, one, they try to put fencing around some of these yards, and it's different generations and different types of fencing, and the ones that are installed and being installed now, literally a piece that is this big, it's hard to pick up with one hand. That's how sturdy it is. And you have to, there are different peoples that are trying to get into train yards, right? You have these youths and you have professional graffiti people, right? That have mechanical tools, that have for years been able to break through our fencing and our mechanisms with professional tools. Because it is a thing for them to get to our trains. And these are people from around the world, I'm being told. And it's crazy, the fascination with it. But the type of fencing that we have now, the enhanced fencing, is really one of the best ways, because you can imagine the yard is, it would take a security person, a little bit of time to walk around and patrol around that particular yard and everything. So the fencing is really our key defense. And when you talk about depth of the different types of defenses, in addition to that, we have our security personnel, right? We have our protection property agents that are at these yards. One, to access control, and then you have the supervisors that go and visit and make sure that we are making rounds, and that is working directly with the folks that works at those yards, right? because security is everybody's responsibility. That's our approach in New York City Transit. In terms of, hey, you can have 2 security guards, 3 security guards, 1 security guard at a yard. But we need everybody's eyes and ears to be open, to be able to kind of share the intelligence that we are gathering, share the transit analysis, and obviously work with our law enforcement individuals to prevent any issues into the yards themselves.
You also mentioned that there are cameras in all the trains, even the ones like the R46s, they don't have cameras, right?
So, there is a camera minimum. I'm gonna make this so easy.
Really?
I'm gonna make, Andrew, I'm gonna make this so easy on the ears. 100% of the rolling stock in New York City Transit has at least minimum of 1 camera. Let me tell you something about the camera. This is a topic this is an important topic, and it's a topic that should interest everyone. And I love this topic. There's so much value with those cameras. I'm telling you,
Yeah, they're
I'm telling everyone in this room, those cameras are real legit.
That's great.
Those cameras are paying dividends every single day. Those cameras aren't just looked at every now and then. Those cameras are depended on every single day, full day. Facts. Great sound investment by the MTA. I would talk about this. I wasn't even employed by the MTA, and I am on the record countless times talking about how impressed I was with the camera system in the MTA. And I'm not, in other words, I'm not here just selling propaganda for the MTA. I was speaking about this for years. It's very impressive. It's literally advancing by the day. And I'm just excited to see where we're gonna be in a few years. 100% of train.
Got it.
Train.
Do you think those cameras have been used at any time to prevent subway surfing?
Oh, wow, that's a great question. And why is it a great question? Because we're almost about to introduce something else for subway surfing, and I'll just tease it at that. Do the cameras assist? So, yes. What type of assistance? They produce evidence. So when court counsel or a prosecutor, it's one thing to tell a story, it's another thing to see it here. And more important, I mean, who do we really want to hit home with these kids that are surfing? It's the parents. And when Junior tells mom or dad that I didn't do nothing, it was my friends, the police, and this was introduced under my watch in transit, show the video to mom and dad, right in front of mom and dad. And that's really powerful. When mom sees her 12-year-old son on top of a moving train. When I was in the NYPD, and it's still going on right now, we've leveraged technology, and it included a drone technology, which is video. A lot of this drone technology is being used on the subway surfing. So to that, is it preventing? I could have a conversation and give an argument. Absolutely, it's preventing because we're using it and the kids are talking. They know what's going on. And if we stop one person, it's a success, and I mean that.
Yeah.
It is a preventive tool, and it's certainly a great investigative tool.
You may have heard me at one of the board meetings, but I guess Demetrius was still senior VP of subways when I suggested that we put sensors on the tops. And the moment somebody climbs on, it would alert the conductor or the motorman, and they would stop the train. And
so I hope to have more in the near future about
great.
just another way of approaching subway surfing.
Excellent.
Andrew, I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, sir, for being here. As a mother to a teenager, my question to you is, you said that most of the youth are train enthusiasts.
Yeah.
Have you thought about going into the schools and talking about prevention, meeting with DOE, having a sample group of students from the major high schools? I know my son is a future engineer and he probably could get into.
God bless.
He probably can get into the train. So I would wonder if that would be also, to encourage them into a career. Because as you know, the statistics say that these are probably underprivileged youth, children that are struggling. Get them into a career, into transit or something like that. So how we can discuss those things as a deterrent and an encouragement for these youths instead of prosecution.
Yes and yes.
Okay.
I am smirking as you are saying it because that is absolutely happening.
That's exactly what's going on.
That's exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
So Department of Subways, Chantel Cabrera, she's got a team that is in touch with DOE, the NYPD, Sergeant Sambeline, Derek, the special projects individuals there who really tackle this issue. They have a team and they are working together. They are actively going inside of the school. And this is how granular we get a little bit, right? We are able to track the incidents. We are able to see which train lines are most affected. We are able to see where these kids are boarding. The kids that we've been able to make contact with in arrest. We know what schools they go to, right? So conventional thinking would say these are the schools we start with, right?
Yeah.
These schools that are in and around where the kids are coming from. So that's exactly, it's a targeted approach. But even more broader than that, it is really a citywide thing because we know the whole city is affected by it. There are some popular trains, obviously, that are mostly affected, but these kids live everywhere. Social media travels. So we absolutely are doing that exact thing that you just mentioned. The focus groups with the kids are happening as well. One, we want to know what the fascination is. And that's where Chief Camper actually got the whole, hey, these are train enthusiasts because they're the one that told us we love trains. So it's happening. We hope that it is impactful. Obviously, you can bring 10, 15 kids in a room and hopefully you touch, 10, 15%, 20, 30%. We reach for the 100, but we know that there's some kids that are a little hard-headed. They're not gonna take in what we're telling them, but we bring them in anyway. But the conversations are being had, the education, the outreach, all of that is happening from us. And because we are in line with your thinking there, that it's more than just, wanting to do damage, right? That there's something more behind it.
And this is more than just the NYPD or the MTA. The Department of Education is a main stakeholder in this. They are active, willing partners with us in this campaign. In the near future, the very near future, you're going to see a new anti-subway surfing campaign being released. If you remember, a little over a year ago was Ride Alive, Stay Inside. That was a campaign that was created by the Department of Education, working with the MTA and the NYPD. That campaign is being updated, if you will. And also what's driving subway surfing. I say this all the time. What's the driver behind it? It's social media credibility, or not credibility, clout, and attention. And with that, we're working with social media companies. We have attorneys involved, working with them to remove any content related to subway surfing, and then create like in-house, and forgive me, I'm not a tech guy, like algorithms for them to be able to recognize automatic algorithm if someone just even searches. If anyone has TikTok, I want you to, I'll give you a little show and tell. If anyone has TikTok, and TikTok is what the kids are using now. You got to talk to the kids. Do a keyword search, subway surfing, and tell me what you see. Maybe someone could do that as we're talking. A warning comes up, doesn't bring you nowhere. Talking about the dangers of subway surfing. Just one example, we're pressed for time. I could go on and on, but we're doing a lot in relation to subway surfing, and we are doing these focus. Yeah, you got it.
Says your safety matters and it won't show you any videos.
Yeah, so why do I bring that up? If you think TikTok just
Give you
woke up one
resources.
day and said, we're gonna do that, I got a bridge to sell you.
Sure, there's a
Yeah.
long negotiation.
This is this was tough to get there. TikTok, to their credit, got there. It's still not 100% with TikTok, but it's a great start. And we're really pressuring and working with the other social media companies, whether it's Meta at Facebook and at Instagram also, have made significant progress in relation to this. And I'm talking about the highest levels of the MTA with the NYPD and the DOE crushing these people. You know, like, this is a major problem and this is what's driving it. So.
Have you considered also adding the family,
Sure.
Say it again.
the family justice system, since that's where you are actually,
When you say the family justice system.
you said that the kids are not being prosecuted, they go to family court. So you included
Of course, yeah.
the judges,
Oh, you're talking,
And-
yeah.
I mean, the judges as
juvenile.
part of that initiative. And I think, you know, more to her point, her kids are gonna be engineers, but these kids that are fascinated with the trains and do want to at some point work, these are all consequences to their ability to obtain that. It's gonna hurt, right?
Right.
So if you include the
Right.
family court system or, you know, or maybe that could be some of the messaging as well.
Yeah, and to your point, yes, and you'd be surprised on just how much knowledge some of these 15, 16-year-old kids have and really possess in relation to understanding how to operate a New York City subway train. It's mind-boggling, like how they have that. And a lot of it, they're learning from online.
Yeah, you can watch tutorials.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's not hard, but you know what? I'm just, I know I'm going back a few years ago in different mindset. I never thought about operating a train and there are a lot of kids around the city. We just got to be mindful of that. That are just fascinated by it and it's dangerous. And it's not only dangerous to the public, it's dangerous to our employees also, whether they're doing track work or whatever the case may be. Because when you're 15 years old, you're really not thinking big picture. I don't know if you're thinking of consequences at 15 years old.
We have a member who's put some questions up online there. Jean, did you want to ask anything else?
I think it's microphone.
It's having audio issues, but it says,
Oh, Jean's mic isn't working?
Yeah, anything being done to prevent youth from climbing on the roof of trains
No.
or updating the stickers on the subway doors,
did that.
which are updated. Anything else to add on either of those?
Like
finding the parents.
finding parents.
Yeah. Then you have the parents been fined
that's,
$75.
It's fine, as far as finding parents, I think that's just probably above our pay grade with that. I don't know if that would have to be some legislative support or an action.
I'm sure it would be
Are
legislative.
they giving the kids like BATs or what is it?
So
Yeah.
here's,
Exactly.
it's a penal law charge. If you're talking about subway surfing.
Mhm.
If you're arrested for subway surfing, it's a crime. Barring anything else, just straight subway surfing is usually a reckless endangerment type charge. And if you qualify for a DAT, you will get that, but juveniles don't get DATs. So we're gonna go to our juvenile, because that's really the population that the overwhelming super majority of the subway surfers. They'll be charged and they'll get a juvenile report. Barring extenuating circumstances behind either the individual person or their history. So what does that mean? A juvenile report is released to their parents. Yeah, and that's why when we recognize that when I was the chief of transit and we took it as an opportunity of while the parent or guardian's coming to pick up their child, show them the evidence. And sometimes I truly believe it. And I thought we thought this, we had real in-depth conversations weighing the pros and cons with this. I truly believe it, that there's probably no better partner in our efforts than a concerned parent. And, yeah.
Sharon and then Chris.
Thank you.
If someone is injured or killed subway surfing, how much is the MTA liable? Are there lawsuits against us for that?
So there's always going to be lawsuits, and I can't speak with confidence to how many lawsuits are pending or anything like that. I'm just being very honest with you. You know, I would probably go to Paige Graves, who's the general counsel. Yeah, I mean, people sue for just about anything nowadays, or you can't sue for anything.
Chris?
As you know, I'm glad we mentioned about surfing, but fare evading is also another issue that I'm still seeing going on
Oh, yeah.
in all the areas.
Big time.
Big time, yeah, exactly. What do we, and I do see security guards at certain stations, thank God, but what, the more disturbing I'm hearing more, it's the Bronx also, and going on the Grand Concourse line, just Fordham itself, as well as East New York. Yes, on the Brighton line as well, because we do see them jumping and doing little dancing kinds, and now I'm seeing trying to do Olympic jumps, which doesn't work. Because some of them, you can hear them going dong.
It's every neighborhood, Chris.
I know, of course, it's every neighborhood. I said it's everywhere. You couldn't right line. Yes, and it's worse in Staten Island as well on the buses. But at the same time, what can we do to ease it down more? Because it doesn't just hurt not just me, but a motorized wheelchair, a walker who does pay the fare on a bus or a train, want to get access, but they have to push or knock the person over.
So we could probably spend 3 hours on this topic. Doing a lot. There's visible improvements already. There's improvements that are in the pipeline that will be rolled out and released in the near future. We're certainly not where we want to be in relation to fare evasion. And you know what, to the MTA's credit, they're very vocal about it. They admit it. Fare evasion is a serious problem. There's way too much fare evasion going on. Before I pass it to Gabby, touch on, and I'm talking about subways and buses.
Especially buses.
And before, well, yeah. But
Eagle team.
we're not where we want to be, anywhere close to where we want to be, but we are making progress. The overall rate of fare evasion is getting better, and that's legit. But it is a problem. It's a problem to the paying customer who questions him or herself, why am I paying? This person's not paying. It's costing the MTA tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars. And it's also created that whole word perception that I've been talking about for a while, and a lot of people talk about. When a rider walks into the system and sees people evading the fare, it looks like it's an unlawful environment. It's like a free for all, and it weighs heavily on their minds. So I think if Gabby, you just want to.
No, as the chief mentioned, we could spend a lot of time on here, but in short, when you look at the subway system, when you look at the security that we do have, making sure that, as the chairman always puts it, as the highway fare evasion, right, the emergency gates.
Super highway.
Super highway. Thank you. And they are making a difference.
Just forgive me, I have like 2 minutes. I have another. Is that okay?
Sure.
They told you like we're.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
We're very appreciative for what you do.
Yep, so it's our security down in the subway, along with some of the hardening in terms of the devices that are being put in the turnstiles, right? So we want to keep people from opening that gate unnecessarily and let other people in. And we want to keep people from jumping over. It's working because you do see that arrow pointing down. When you look at the buses, major effort are being put towards the buses, right? With the Eagle team. They are out there every single day. And I directly oversee the Eagle team. They are out there on the buses, all over the city. We are doing enforcement on the buses. And absolutely. So that arrow is also pointing down, right? So they're out there every day. And it's a major priority for us.
Do we have any knowledge when the new turnstiles are due to arrive? as of this point?
Off the top of my head, no, I've seen them. I've been in meetings with them. Again, I'm gonna speak for myself. I'm excited.
Yeah.
They seem like the real deal.
Yeah.
But I don't, Albert, I apologize. I can't say in June,
Yeah.
and I'm sure there's a date or a day out there. Do you know?
No.
I went to visit the ones they put in at the 69th Street station on the Market Street line in Philly, because they're similar to the ones we're getting.
Yeah.
And the booth agent there said it's declined fare evasion by about 85%. And I watched them for an hour. Nobody tried to beat it.
Yeah.
But that could have been a fluke also. New Yorkers are more ingenious, maybe than Philadelphians.
I gotta.
Marisol, do you want to ask Gabby?
Good question. Staff wise, I know that there was an influx of officers that assisted you with that. Do you expect to continue that?
Oh, the Eagles?
Which one you took?
The Eagle team as well as the.
Gate guards and all of that?
Yes, so the Eagle team, when you look at the Eagle team, we are
Adding more, that's
more
basically my
individuals.
question.
We just hired, literally, we just hired a new class, April 21st, which was
Awesome.
Monday. They came in.
Awesome.
So those guys are in training and we are creating more teams to be able to have more footprint around the city. So that is an ongoing.
That's awesome.
And one last question. The MTA has talked about getting permission from the state to put a lag on the opening of the emergency gates unless there's a real emergency. Like, I think there's a test of 10 or 15 stations where the gates, the slam gates are a minute and a half delay before they'll actually open after you push the thing. And most New Yorkers won't wait. They'll go through the turnstile to exit like they usually do. Do you know any progress on that front?
Yes, I mean, they out there. They are, and you should see the video. You should see the videos on that. And when you pull up the video, you actually see an individual push, they're waiting and immediately they'll just go to the turnstile.
Yeah.
So that is working. Early indication that it is helping us absolutely combat fare evasion.
Great.
All right.
Gentlemen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great to hear.
Thank you. They're a good group. Oh, God, this is gonna be a tough crowd. You're gonna throw tomatoes at you.
Thank you. Thank you for everything you do.
Please, well.
Thank you, you too. So I think we heard some interesting information today. We heard some developments that seem to be on the way as far as subway surfing and as far as security in yards and on aboard trains. So that's good news. They understand there's a problem there. Stuart.
Yeah, so it was a very good big picture presentation. Chris was formulating a question. He mentioned the particular station. And this wasn't the time to get granular, but we could forward intel to that.
Yes.
I was at Fordham Road last week on the north end of the station, and I believe I said this
On the
last
G and B or the four?
the BD.
Yeah, it's a hard.
BD. And someone was holding open the gate to let people in and out. And absolutely no one from MTA or NYPD was at that end of the station. They also had debris and garbage, so it looked like it had been cleaned in a while. This is the north end.
It's funny you say that, Stuart. I don't mean to interrupt you, but somebody yesterday sent me a picture of the Bedford Park Boulevard station on that line. Unbelievable dirt, debris, refuse all over.
The station was immaculate, but the passageway up to the concourse was perfect, but I think we could pass that on to them.
Absolutely.
I don't know how actively used that entrance is, but it's the closest entrance to the corner of Fordham Road and the concourse. So I would think that it's busy, but it was just brazen, holding the thing open.
Andrew, can I add something?
Sure, go ahead.
This has been brought, I know I brought this up a lot, and I know Jason, who's at I-4 Authority, we have put these complaints into the app. And honestly, and I agree with Stuart, I don't see nothing getting done at that area. Because last time I had to go up there to Fordham University to an event. And even I gone using the B and the D that time because the B was moving. That was when the new schedule went in. It's like, I want to be very respectful because I don't want to be rude, but Sometimes you don't even just, it's not just garbage you see, but you start seeing the things on the, from the track come onto the platform. So it is something that needs to be
That
checked.
was respectfully rude.
So soon, you know what I'm
I
saying?
know exactly what you're
Just trying to
saying.
be kosher, but the bottom line is
You wouldn't see that if our riders didn't throw food and other things
exactly, I
down.
was just gonna say.
Yes.
Exactly. So if there's possible, can we,
I'm gonna, since Stuart's asked for it so many times, I'm gonna have a special cleaning presentation. Maybe at the next meeting, if I can get the speaker that we want for that, because you've raised it. This has been raised by Chris now and by others. Some of the stations are in really rough shape, not structurally, but garbage-really. Here you go. And we want to hear the schedule, how often, if you report something, how long will it take to get that cleaned up? You know, what is it doing to the rat population? There's just so many issues. Plus, it has made some walkways slippery. People can fall from some of the debris that are thrown down. Papers.
yes,
I saw a whole thing of eggs on one stairway. I mean, unbelievable. But yes, so I think this was good. We learned some things are underway. They understand it's really important. The cameras are taking amazing pictures. When you see some of these on television, such and such has reported being shoved or being attacked. They have a really clear picture of that person. So you're not getting away with it. You're going to be caught. And I think that's great. Do we have any hands up from the public on this presentation? I don't see any.
I know Debbie, she had to run because she had an emergency, but she was just
Okay.
mentioning about the human rights stuff, but that could be brought up to the chief later.
Doing in the cover work.
No more questions?
So our comment.
Question is, when you were mentioning the cameras and the photos, this has been a greatest concern for me, and I haven't been able to bring it up yet. Of the employees taking unauthorized photos and sharing them amongst each other and amongst on websites, you know, of victims of, you know, tragic accidents or whatever and so on, so forth.
Employees are taking pictures of the victims
Mhm. Mhm.
and sharing them with who?
They each other, with the public websites. It's been a grave concern of mine. It is deeply disturbing to me. It's so undignified and, as you know, in California, if you're an employee of California and you get caught doing something like that from like the sheriff's office and you're not authorized to do so, you can lose your job. And I think that something needs to go into place, Andrew, whether it is part of their training for the new classes that are coming out, that if you're not authorized to take photos, that you should not be taking photos of victims on tracks, no matter how they got there, and they should not be sharing them amongst each other via cell phones, text messages, social media.
What is the point of that sharing, if I may ask? Just that we witnessed this today or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shock value.
Sometimes the gruesome is, sometimes it's might be a disgruntled employee that may say, oh, well, transit doesn't care about the employee. And so
Did you ever see anyone doing this?
absolutely,
Were you able to get?
I see,
A number?
that's why I'm bringing it to you. Because it is still going on and it's quite disturbing to me. And let me just share a little something with you. My brother-in-law was pushed by a homeless person onto the tracks and was killed. And I would be appalled if my nephew went online looking and that came up.
Yeah.
Because an employee felt the need to share that for whatever their reasons are. And it is going on and they have their own private social media group that they share things amongst each other. Okay, so I really wanted to bring this to your attention because it's very, very serious.
I will raise that with Demetrius when I see him on Monday, and see what kind of instructions are being given to the personnel at transit.
Please,
Not instructions, it should be warning.
it should be a warning.
Well, yeah, it has to be.
Yes. Yes, of like if any employee gets caught in any way sharing those type of photos,
They're subject to.
they're subject to The law is,
Dismissal.
Dismissal.
It should be dismissal.
It's very serious,
That's unreal.
very serious.
I mean, for a minute, I thought when you started that story that they were taking a picture and sending it to the police.
No,
But it's not. It's social. It's the social media.
Instagram.
Oh,
Andrew's on Instagram.
humans never cease to surprise us, do they?
or disappoint us.
Or disappoint us. Well, as you heard today, there's good and there's bad, obviously, out there. Just be aware of your surroundings and report things. If you can get an employee's number in any way. I've had people report to me various police officers' badge numbers who have just watched as people have mounted the turnstiles and done nothing. And I send that to the head of police and we got to get action. They know they're being watched. That can't hurt. We got to make the system better for everybody. And that includes employees too. That's not good for employees. Okay, yes, we're gonna go to Henry. Henry is, or Henry, oh, there you are. All right. I'm used to you being over on this side. He has done an amazing report. I looked at it, made a few comments and it's going to be up on the screen and it is for bus rapid transit in New York, which we do not currently have, but other cities do have. And it's a proposal and what it might look like. So Henry,
Yes, I'm just.
you're on.
Yeah, I'll just note that, Henry's been with us since the beginning of the fall as an intern. It's originally from Queens and, this is an issue that he brought up in his interviews with us. Something he was passionate about, diving into more deeply. What does the bus system look like in the city? How could we potentially improve it? And, what would that actually look like? So, we were excited about the idea of this report from the get-go, and I've been really impressed with how it's come along so far. So, he's done some great work and we're excited for him to share with you all today.
All right, guys. Hey, I've stayed pretty quiet the past like 8-9 months. I've been interning at PCAC and.
Oh, we thought you had laryngitis.
Thank you. But I've been really interested in all the comments you guys have. You guys are from different parts of New York City, have different backgrounds professionally. But I know some of you guys take the bus frequently. And like I've paid attention to different issues. Maybe like sometimes you guys don't bring up the topic of bus rapid transit, but you bring up very targeted specific issues on a smaller scale that we think bus rapid transit can really address. And again, bus rapid transit is not something we have in New York, but that's why we're here today. And that's why we're having a presentation of this issue.
Before you start, could you
Yes.
just define what you mean by bus rapid transit?
That's
number one.
I can answer. So
I know, but I didn't.
what is bus rapid transit, right? So in the 1970s, the Brazilian city of Curitiba designed the world's first BRT with high capacity buses, center running bus lanes and tube shaped stations. And what BRT does is that it incorporates dedicated center aligned bus lanes, off-board fare collection, level boarding, bus priority at intersections, and fast and frequent operations. We have some of these things here and there throughout New York City's buses, but definitely not to the level that international bus rapid transit systems have. And then after Curitiba, Bogota, Colombia, implemented the Transmilenio, and that's perhaps the world's most well-known example of bus rapid transit. Its population is very similar to New York's, but they don't have any rail transit of any kind. They are entirely reliant on buses for their rapid transit needs, which is crazy. And then after the Transmilenio, that became credited as the inspiration for BRT, which came after that. So this is the Metrobus in Buenos Aires. I've taken buses on this corridor before, and I can vouch for how effective it is. This is the Metrobus in Mexico City, also a decently well-known system. And bus rapid transit as a concept really exploded in the 2000s. And it was around that time when people in New York City began pushing for BRT here. There's a group called the Pratt Center for Community Development. They were some of the people who helped push for select bus service, which is BRT's illegitimate child or cousin or whatever here in New York City that it's used for bus rapid transit. But anyways, so Select Bus Service, or SBS for short, came out of the same 2000s era of BRT implementation in Latin American, African, and Asian cities, but it's fallen so far short of not just international BRT standards, but of course, the needs of bus riders here, such as many of us in this room, myself included. SBS is a limited stop bus service that incorporates farther stop spacing, older boarding, and it generally uses longer three-door buses. And SBS routes exist within the larger bus network and usually have a local counterpart, making more frequent stops. But since the pandemic, the NCA has not launched new SBS, but the city's Department of Transportation has continued implementing what they call bus priority projects. That is independent of any effort that the NCA has made with Select Bus Service. These are usually bus lanes next to the curb or maybe buffered by parking. Most of New York's bus lanes look like this. And I'm sure as many of you have noticed, they don't really work well. And they require heavy enforcement. And in the past few years, automation has helped. We have ACE, the Automated Camera Enforcement Program. And out of that, like literal hundreds of thousands of violations. I think the last time we checked, it was over 400,000, but that was a year ago. I'm sure it's even higher now. So lots of violations are being pushed out. But still, bus speeds are as slow as you guys know they are. And less common are busways, which are transit malls that drivers can only use for local access. Put a picture of Main Street there on the upper right-hand corner. That's a pretty good example. And there are also some median bus lanes on some arterials in the outer boroughs, such as Woodhaven Boulevard and Queens. Center running bus lanes, which are the international BRT standards, are exceedingly rare in New York. We have one, maybe two halfway decent examples in the Bronx. That's Yale Grant Highway. That's a pretty recent Department of Transportation project that they got done. And then on the NTA side, separately, the NCA is undergoing bus network redesigns, borough by borough, and is launching what they're calling rush routes, colored here in purple, as part of the Queens implementation coming this summer. They're concentrated in Eastern Queens, and these rush routes act as feeders into the subway / LARR. The idea is they'll make more frequent local stops on one end of the line and make a lot fewer closer to subway and rail hubs such as Jamaica or downtown Flushing. But the future of Select Bus Service is really unclear. When Omni completely replaces the Metro card, which seems to be in the near future, SBS will essentially be a limited bus with older boarding, and New York City is basically back to square one after 2 decades of these half-hearted attempts. And New York City's leadership does have the opportunity to get BRT done right. But if not, New Yorkers will face a future of even longer commute times and ever more dysfunctional buses, which despite their flaws serve over 1.4 million riders on a daily basis. So we have a list of recommendations that will require strength and coordination between both MTA and City DOT to deliver higher quality and more effective projects. Install protected bus lanes aligned to the center streets, avoiding the chronic issues that block New York's existing right-aligned bus lanes. The second is to upgrade intersections with transit signal priority and other tools. Build accessible BRT stations with level boarding, full shelters, clear signage, lighting, seating, and countdown clocks, all the amenities you would associate with the train station, because bus riders deserve the same. Overhaul signage and wayfinding by adopting a recognizable and unified design language for BRT and integrate BRT into the subway map to improve wayfinding for riders. And then here's a key one, and I can explain this more later, but pilot a new bus fleet with doors on both sides of the bus. And this is a standard design on international BRT systems, but it's unheard of here in New York. Reform boarding and fare payment by enabling older boarding and piloting fare gates at BRT stations. And then with all this said, launch the next gen Select Bus Service as BRT by using this report's suite of recommendations in tandem with one another. And these recommendations should really be used on a citywide scale to implement a cohesive network of BRT, but we've made design concepts of how these recommendations could look like when applied to 2 specific locations. And the first is Flatbush Avenue, right, in Brooklyn. So the B41 is Flatbush Avenue's primary route. And Flatbush Avenue stretches between the Manhattan Bridge and the Marine Parkway Bridge. Yeah, and the Marine Parkway Bridge. And it's served almost in its entirety by the B41. It's one of the NC's busiest routes. City DOT is currently in the planning stages of a bus priority project. For the corridor with Flatbush Avenue, the buses can average less than 4 miles per hour in some sections, which is abysmal. The southern end of Flatbush Avenue is not served by any subway or commuter rail, and this means that trap hangers in that part of Brooklyn are completely reliant on bus service, right? To travel within the borough
No bus, one
Or-
bus.
or to connect with the subway if they're traveling farther. And as part of a separate capital project that's unrelated, the city DOT plans on redesigning Grand Army Plaza to simplify the flow of traffic, because that's a mess, while better connecting
Tell me about it.
and cyclist pathways. So move on to this. Despite Grand Army Plaza being the B41's gateway between downtown Brooklyn and areas south of Prospect Park, current DOT literature speaks little to how the separate projects will interact. But
That's for a reason. That's my district. So yeah, that's for a reason.
I love,
They don't want connections. They don't.
I love to cover.
Exactly.
Flatbush is such an interesting case study. But the following slides will focus on what BRT could look like at Flatbush Avenue on the southern end of Grand Army Plaza, where the entrance to Prospect Park is. But I do want to give a disclaimer because Flatbush varies widely in roadway width from section to section. This means the design of bus lanes and stations would likely vary if BRT were to be implemented, but this is very specific to Grand Army Plaza. So I don't know how long ago exactly, but DOT did, again, a separate project where they implemented bike lanes on Flatbush adjacent to Prospect Park, right? And of course, cyclists need their space as well. But the thing is, due to space constraints and just the nature of that project, they had to build what they call a bus boarding island to replace the southbound B41 stop. And people have like put to my attention that the only accessible curb cut leads riders away from where they want to go and into the middle of nowhere, which, you know, how does that make sense? It doesn't, but whatever. And this is one of the concept drawings. So the idea would be for a center aligned island platform serving buses going in both directions, which is not something we have in New York. I think this is a very new concept for a lot of us here. And that's why we are asking for a special built BRT fleet with buses, with doors on both sides of the bus, which would enable traditional right-hand boarding, but it would also enable the construction of island platforms such as this. And now let's zoom in a little. So this would improve accessibility by incorporating level boarding. We would want all door boarding system-wide, but especially this is important on the build out of bus rapid transit because it's supposed to be rapid. And this also lets us play with the service pattern, right? Because it's not only about the design, but it's about the service itself. So part of the report that's going to be released in the coming weeks delves into how we can take advantage of congestion pricing and the decreased traffic along these river crossings to create stronger interborough select bus service and how this can be a part of a BRT rollout. So hypothetically, there could be an upgrade of the B41 limited to SBS, and you could have it going across the Manhattan Bridge into Manhattan, or you could have it going across the Parkway Bridge into the Rockaways, which again is also desperately needs better rapid transit connections in that part of Queens as well. And this is a side view, and I want to zoom in and point out that this accessible exit would lead to Grand Army Plaza, Brooklyn Public Library and Prospect Park where people want to go. And the platform would replace the existing boarding island, and this would reduce conflict by and bus riders both. And both their needs need to be considered. And then the second location, and this is literally home for me in Northern Boulevard in Queens. I live a block away. Northern Boulevard serves the Q66 local bus on its route between Flushing and LIC, paralleling the 7 train, which runs about a mile south in Roosevelt. And north of Northern Boulevard, closer to the airport, is a subway desert in the residential areas where strap hangers rely heavily on buses that feed into the subway. MTA Express buses serving commuters in Eastern Queens also use Northern Boulevard during rush hour without making stops because it's an express bus. So the Department of Transportation installed right-aligned bus lanes, the standard design in their toolkit on Northern Boulevard as part of a bus priority project in 2023. And I do want to say that the addition of this bus lane didn't result in notable changes to bus speeds. Like, it was like 0.1 mile per hour increase, which was disappointing. As I'm saying this as a regular rider of the Q66 myself.
You use the speedometer to measure that 0.1?
MTA metrics, close enough. But the MTA is launching the new Q63 rush route in summer 25 as part of the Queens Bus Network redesign. And this route's going to be very similar to the existing local, but it will run straight on Northern Boulevard over there on the left-hand side.
And that's one of the buses I mentioned earlier, that's
Yes.
getting a bump up in service.
Right.
Yeah.
And although these efforts are bringing incremental improvements to bus service, they continue to treat the bus primarily as a feeder into the subway and not as potential rapid transit in its own right. This new Q63 rush route won't go over the Queensboro Bridge despite decreased traffic because of congestion pricing. And I do want to mention that the bus lanes as they exist right now end at the M/R train station at Broadway Northern Boulevard. So the idea of the bus is still to feed into the subway, even if it can be much better in its own right as a standalone mode. And before I go into some of like the more design stuff, I do want to say that unlike Flatbush in Brooklyn, which varies very widely from section to section, Northern Boulevard is relatively consistent in road layout, and thus a streamlined BRT design can be more feasibly implemented. And the following concepts on the next pages focus on the block between 82nd and 83rd Streets and Jackson Heights, but the characteristics of this location are applicable to most of Northern Boulevard.
And look at that shadow. Is that your shadow?
Yes, it is. Me and my transit enthusiast friend.
It's because they get hit.
I do want to point out that chronic double parking is a big issue. Of course, it's no exception on Northern Boulevard. And there's also unused stripe median space conveniently located in the middle of the road, wide enough for a platform, if you know where I'm getting at. So here, this is something that I think is even more unheard of. Center running BRT with stations built out with fare gates. And what this would do is it would provide a technological solution to a lot of the fare evasion discussion that, you know, we've had in this room, but just people generally have talked about. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe like fare evasion is like 40% on the MTA's buses, right? So
It's higher than on the subways, yes.
right, even worse on the subway. And this would be paired with platform screen doors, which also unheard of in the United States when it comes to buses, but it is commonplace in international BRT systems to have a fare payment solution like this. And I do want to point out,
No, go ahead, finish.
okay, and I do want to point out that if you move the existing curbside bus stops into the middle of the road, they can be repurposed for other things. So it could decrease chronic issues like double parking, illegal parking.
That's the perfect place for my question. And I already asked this of you, but I want everyone else to hear. If you have center aligned buses like this, how do they make right turns? They have to go into two or three lanes of traffic?
On Northern, it would just merge the one lane over, but actually right turns wouldn't really be an issue on Northern because the bus just goes straight. There are very few turns.
On that route, but if a bus makes turns along its route, how does it make right turns if it has to cross lanes, moving lanes of traffic to make that turn?
Sure, that would slow down the bus, I guess, in that specific, but I mean, it's a very traffic engineering question. But buses
I
already.
mean, that's the
have-
reason they do right lane alignments for buses, because they can make a turn or they can go straight.
The idea, though, is that with a center line corridor, you have a good stretch of roadway where you're able to run continuously. And many routes coming from different ways could join together to run center aligned. And then, if they are going to different destinations, make their turns where
Also,
necessary.
If it's dependent on the route, and if the route has a really long straight stretch, then
Yeah.
that's not an issue.
Yes.
Exactly, yeah.
Andrew, they might be able to just do the markings that would allow for the buses to
Right.
make those turns.
Or have a special light that allows, that stops traffic, but allows the bus to.
Well, that's what they do right now in Manhattan along Third Avenue, along First and Second Avenue.
They allow that
West side.
canalization for them to make that.
What they do. Can I just
Oh, sorry.
sort of asking questions?
Sure, go ahead, Drew.
Thank you. In Portland, Oregon, they have something that they call bus rapid, or they call it, I think they call it surface rapid transit, something with that, but with their buses. Are you familiar with that? Because you were talking about things out of the United States, and I have actually been in Portland and been on this, what they call, it's not what you are talking about there. Are you familiar with that at all?
Portland,
Portland, Oregon, yeah.
not Portland, but I'm aware that a place called Eugene in Oregon has a bus rapid transit line.
Well, Portland, actually Eugene copied Portland. Portland is the largest city. So if not, would you be willing to, before you issue your final report, talk about that? Because I noticed in this, you didn't talk about anything that is being done in other cities in the United States. And
In the upcoming report, we do mention Cleveland, which has what they call the Healthline BRT, that's center line. And in Cleveland, their transit agency, Cleveland RTA, they purchased from New Flyer, an articulated bus fleet with doors on both sides. So that can be procured here in the United States domestically. And New Flyer also supplies.
that's not in your report that you're,
Not this presentation, but in the upcoming report, that's.
what others, well, if you would look into, because Eugene followed, Oregon has, and they have it in one or two other smaller cities or smaller towns. If you would include that, because I think it's important that there are precursors in the United States, not just in South American countries and what have you.
We'll take a look at that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Stuart.
Henry, two things. Nice presentation.
Thank you.
The first thing though is if there was a recommended street to launch this or propose this, I think what would be helpful for the report is to propose capital costs associated with new bus purchases that would have the specific requirements you're talking about. But my expertise is heavy rail. But isn't there something going on in Staten Island that City DOT is proposing a dedicated bus right of way on the North Shore branch of the Staten Island Railroad? So rather than reestablish heavy rail, they would have a dedicated busway with stations that are, raised platform.
Got it.
To allow boarding and, so I don't know if you'd want to look at that or reference that. Because if it's a reality, and I don't know how close to being a reality it would be, it may be a test case if there's going to be a major capital investment, just something like this in other boroughs.
It really should be light rail, and then the Hudson Bergen light rail could come right over the Bayonne Bridge, go along the North Shore and right over.
That's
Totally against.
That's-
Yeah.
the perpetual question of like, bus rapid transit, why that over light rail? And I'm only gonna speak for myself when I say this. Yeah, I just think it's really context dependent. Like,
It's what? I'm sorry.
context dependent, like the two streets that this report focuses on, specifically Flatbush and Northern Boulevard. I personally believe neither is a good candidate for light rail, because it doesn't make sense in those contexts where you have at least 5 different bus routes running on the same street. And if you build out light rail there, all that's gonna do is force people to transfer, and it's gonna end up serving less people. This isn't to say that light rail doesn't also have its place. Of course, it has its place, but it's just context dependent on the location and the needs of the transit project.
How much?
Could we get back to the question that Stuart just raised about cost? Because what you're suggesting and with, I can't say Trump, it's political, but with the federal government threatening to take away federal money transportation unless something is done about congestion pricing, where would you suggest that the money, which is quite costly the way you do it, where would you suggest that the money come from? I mean, it's nice to have great plans, but if we could be a little practical in this.
I think some of you guys could probably speak better to this, but I do want to say that up to this point, and our upcoming report speaks in much greater detail about this. All of the bus priority projects that the DOT does and has implemented in the past few years, almost all have not been capital projects. They've been operational projects called SIPs, or stand for Street Improvement Projects. And it's led to a lower quality of bus priority projects. And that's why we need capital funding for a full BRT build out.
And where would you suggest that come from?
I can jump in there. So just for some context, of course, this is just a snippet of the full report that will be coming out in the near future. We do, of course, acknowledge that some of these more capital intensive upgrades would be much more longer term, a little bit more, I'd say pie in the sky dreams that would really help improve things. And then, of course, we also improve some shorter term, much more doable things that could be done almost overnight if necessary.
How? Where would the money come from?
So
Anything.
of course, we, well, two answers to that question. One, a lot of the street capital improvements are funded from the city. They're DOT projects that would not impact the MTA's budget. Some of them, of course, the new buses would come from the MTA's budget and would probably have to be either in a future capital plan. We, of course, are continuing our fight for capital plan funding, which Brian and Lisa will get into later.
I do want to say about buying new buses. Buses are not like trains. They don't last 40, 50, even 60 years. So every capital plan, the MTA is required to buy new buses, both standard and articulated, whether they want to or not. So this would be an opportunity to specialize the procurement so that we could also build bus rapid transit in a way that New York hasn't seen before.
And it's just comparatively inexpensive to a number of the other options that are out there. Even with the more robust, platform stations that we're suggesting here, it's still something that's well within the budget of city DOT and the MTA.
So it would be city DOT, not MTA.
It would be a shared.
Those are two separate,
You need the MTA to buy the buses and you need the DOT to do the streetscape. That's just how it works in New York.
Has there been communication with city DOT about
I mean,
that?
they're always working together on buses.
But about this specific.
We haven't even issued the report yet, so not yet.
There's conversations with some people who work in this department at DOT as well. But this is a sneak preview of report that is not yet fully published.
Right, so again, if you want to make this palatable, and I think Trudy was picking up on what I was saying, there's a bus replacement cycle. Funds are already committed for the next cycle of a replacement of buses.
Yeah.
And various types, whether they're electric or hybrid or complying with other regulations. Or the type of bus that you're proposing or not, or what this process calls for, with a totally different design, with doors on both sides. We're already replacing the buses.
Right.
These lines, so estimating the future costs and the capital costs is something that I think needs to be referenced in the document. Make it realistic, as opposed to just an idea. And then, of course, if there's thoughts on the sources of funding or what the costs might be when the next cycle expires.
Yep.
Because this is not, it would take time to redo the streetscape.
Yeah.
It's one timetable, but then the acquisition of the buses, because you're not buying these buses when the other ones have a life cycle that you're just launching with the new purchases. So
True.
Yes.
Good point.
Can you guys speak more to the accessibility in terms of the curb cuts and wheelchairs entering on both sides of the bus? If there's that center medium in terms of like safety and paying, can you speak a little bit more to how accessibility was considered in this plan? Because as you know, we do have 155 plus new subway stations, but the bus is the main source for people with disabilities right now to travel. So I would like to know, you know, as a person who lived in Europe also and used their buses and their transportation, I would like to know, was that a priority in terms of considering this plan?
Oh, it absolutely was. Like, I say this as a frequent bus rider. It pains me to see how difficult it is for older people and people using walkers or wheelchairs to try and get on the bus sometimes. Like, sometimes like the wheelchair ramp isn't even deployable because there's a car parked in the bus stop for whatever reason. And like it makes it hellish for like a person trying to get on using the deployable ramp. The intention, I would say, of these concept drawings and of like pushing for bus rapid transit is to really emphasize, I think, the level boarding element, because that's not something most people think of. Like, we're used to just thinking of the bus as in like, okay, you step off the curb on the sidewalk and that's just what the bus is. But that's because we haven't seen this level of investment in the bus network here before. Like, we associate like nice things with trains, but then like the bus is considered like a third class transportation mode. Like, people don't put it that way, like they don't say it out loud. But that seems to be kind of like how we view things here in the United States and like even in New York, like it's.
Not for people with not for travelers with disabilities. That's
And not for
usually our
older
main
people
source.
either.
Excuse me, Trudy, it's usually our main source of travel in the subway is secondary.
Right.
Yeah, so if you, one of the key things that I think Henry built into his concept drawings is with the center platform. And I don't know, we can go back to them or bring them up for you, is that, you know, you'd be entering the platform directly from the crosswalk, have an easy ramp up to the level, and then be able to level boarding, be directly onto the bus with minimal gap, because that's a dedicated bus lane where the bus is able to pull right up to the platform and have a very small gap for you to get onto the bus without any up or down.
Just so that you know.
That's the big concept of how to make it as easy as possible.
Henry, just so that you know, because of, and I raised a big brouhaha over this, that there is now a GO out from buses that says unless it is not possible, all buses must be curbed. And I have reported a couple of drivers, well, I don't know the driver's numbers, but the bus numbers, when they just stop in the middle of the street because it's more convenient.
I've noticed the same.
So, but no, but there is, it's more than just noticing. It's, you know, that now goes out. And also I have suggested when I speak to groups, and we've talked about it here, that when you get on, you say to the bus driver, please curb, I'm getting off at such and such stop, please curb the bus. Because now they are ordered to do so unless it is not possible, and they.
You know, it's sad that they even have to order it.
But it is.
Shouldn't have
it's
to
a
work
fact,
this way.
But it's a fact,
It's
just so that you know about curbing the bus, and I think everybody here does that when they get on a bus, so.
We need to wrap this portion up because we're running out of time. Go ahead.
Last question.
Kalia, did you have one last?
No, just based on what Kalia was asking you with, you know, and explaining the ramp and the effort to make it easy for someone to access the bus. Didn't I hear you saying in the presentation, there's also like a fare gate or fare control?
Yeah.
Right, so you'd have to make sure that that was easily accessible.
Oh,
to
absolutely.
Someone with a mobility issue.
Yes.
How you tap, how it moves.
Well,
What's the word?
I had the idea that it might be like when you get your ticket from the select bus, you know, where you might be able to get your ticket ahead of time. This is what I was conceptualizing in my mind as you were talking. You know, you can get your ticket for select bus ahead of time and then you can wait on the platform for the bus to arrive. So I'm hoping that that might be kind of how it would be.
Yeah.
The whole system will be Omni by then, so.
Yeah, but you can
Right.
board ahead of, or you can get onto that
So-
platform ahead of time, definitely.
I also think this is really dependent on the street you're implementing bus rapid transit. Again, that's why I gave the disclaimer, Flatbush is very different from section to section. Northern Boulevard is a lot more consistent. So I very purposefully, I was the one who made those graphics, didn't include fare gates on Flatbush, because I know that like such a design probably would not be possible along the entire length of Flatbush in the way that it's feasible on Northern Boulevard. And also like fare gates, like these, the ones in the pictures on the screen before, they're modeled after the accessible fare gates that we've talked about here that they're implementing on the subway. And on the way it works is that there are some narrower ones, but there's also like a wider one to replace the function of the existing exit gates that we've talked about in the subway system. So yeah, these are all important considerations.
Well, thank you so much, Henry. This is very interesting. We look forward to the next update on this installment, yes. And Brian, I think it's up to you now.
Yeah, I'll be pretty brief since we're getting short on time, but you know, in addition to Henry's great work on the report and the work that we're doing to prep that for release shortly, you know, we've been continuing to push on the capital plan since the New York State budget is not yet finished, and ensuring that the funding that is needed, which, you know, right now we're looking at the $35.4 billion hole is filled. You know, we were up in Albany last month. We've done a lot of follow-up with legislators since then. We've continued to push out op-eds talking about the need for the plan and doing social media days of action and all that good stuff. So we're hopeful that by the next time we meet, certainly that there will be a state budget and the MTA's capital plan will be fully funded, but we're keeping our fingers crossed until that is all set in stone. We've also been continuing to work on congestion pricing as, you know, we hit the 100-day mark just a little while ago, working with our coalition and partners to continue to talk about all the ways the program has been a success. Repeat them today, but I think we all know what they are. I've been speaking on panels, been doing more op-eds, continuing to talk about how the program is working over the past month and more. We've been continuing to do a lot of work on our Rider First Fare agenda and getting that either included in the state budget or we've also been putting out standalone bills in case they are not included in the budget as another option to get those initiatives through the state legislature in one way, shape, or form. Earlier this week, we put out a group memo of support that included pretty much every transit and disability advocate that you can think of, along with some new partners like the New York State Business Council and the New York State Restaurant Association, which signed on to all those incentives, which was great. And congrats to Jack on getting them on board. We've also been working with the various legislators who are sponsoring those bills to write op-eds on why they're introducing the legislation and why it's important, as well as continuing to build co-sponsors onto those bills. Same goes for the Rider Rep Act, which has been reintroduced in Albany, which would give our rider representatives on the MTA board a vote and the ability to do all the other things that board members do, make motions, et cetera.
Count towards a quorum.
Count towards a quorum, as we know, has been problematic in the committee meetings of late. So we're continuing to work on that. Certainly after the budget is done, we will make a bigger push to on that piece of legislation and some of the others that are less budget related. Yes.
Have you been in direct contact with the governor's office? Because she is
We have.
really carrying the whole load on this, not the majority leader, not, if you speak about what your conversations with the governor's office.
Yeah, I mean, we're in regular conversations with, her transportation advisors, and they're well aware of our bills and what we've been working on, and we always include them whenever we have something like our group memo of support that we released earlier this week, and they always give us good feedback on our initiatives.
To the governor's office.
David Ullman is her Deputy Secretary of Transportation, who we speak to most frequently.
Oh, okay.
We also speak, my old boss is now her legislative coordinator, so
Who's that?
Ken and Kurt,
Oh,
so I talked to
you
him.
used to work there?
Well, not for the governor, he was Brad
Okay.
Hoyleman Siegel's chief of staff.
So those are the main things that we've been working on over the past month. It's continued to be very busy. We're anxiously awaiting the budget and all the other shoes on congestion pricing to drop, but we are keeping busy in the meantime with.
It sounds like congestion pricing is not gonna, there's not gonna be anything till the fall, really.
No, there is not going to be the date that I'll say his name. I'm trying not to say his name, but that Trump has now said is May 21st. And they seem to be really serious now. He says he gave another month, it was supposed to be April 30th, and now it's May 21st. So have there been considerations that if he does cut all federal money on that date, what we do then?
I mean, I think that will be a long legal process if they were to attack.
The legal process is going on right now. There are different, just one on four things.
The MTA also just filed an injunction or filed papers so that seeking an injunction in case the feds try to halt federal funding. It's not, as you know, Trudy, it's not just as simple as
Oh,
stopping.
no, I know, but
writing
it should be mentioned at least or discussed or.
Absolutely. There's a lot of things that are happening. There are a lot of things happening in court. There are a lot of things happening, I'm certain behind the scenes on the MTA level.
Yes.
The MTA, filed the lawsuit against.
I'll find out about in 10
DOT.
minutes.
But they also there are other lawsuits that have been filed against USDOT too. The lawsuit that the legal documents that Andrew referenced earlier, mistaken or were they that were released late last night, early this morning, show how
Exactly.
the case is. But I think that they are, if in fact there is an effort to halt approvals through the Metropolitan Planning Organization process, that's a national crisis essentially, because that would mean that all of the 460 something MPOs nationally are at risk of having their funding just arbitrarily frozen or withdrawn or who knows what, because something, maybe there's a DEI word stuck in in a contract somewhere. So I think that there is a national day of reckoning, honestly, coming that this is going to bring. So
It will be May 30, May 20th.
21st.
well, that's the third deadline, but I think that the legal mandate is going to continue on into the fall. And I don't think that the feds can just arbitrarily stop.
Oh, he will try to do that. He
Oh,
will
absolutely.
arbitrarily
He will
try to do
try,
that.
but that doesn't mean that he can.
But we should be aware of it and be concerned. I was gonna say worried, that maybe worried is a better word, but be concerned about it. And it's less than a month now, and I don't think that he's gonna postpone it again.
Absolutely, very, very aware, very, every day brings a new concern and a new challenge.
Constantly, you and I agree on that.
I think we've reached the point of new business. Does anyone have any?
Have old business.
Go ahead.
To get back to Sharon's question from last month, Sharon, I spoke with Q and the MTA accessibility, since I'm on the signage committee, they did add additional more signs at Times Square, 42nd. When you're near the ramp, you'll see the directions going towards the elevators for the A, the C, the E, and the 1, 2, and 3. So there have been adding additional signages at that station. Regarding Grand Central, since they're in construction, due to the fact that there were temporary signs, we also have been finding out, and I know Chief didn't mention it, but it's either way, we've been finding out there's been people ripping them down, those temporary signs.
Yes, in Grand Central especially, I've seen, that's another thing that thank you for bringing that up. Because I've actually observed people, maybe they're angry at the MTA or they're angry at having their exit, whatever it is, literally ripping down those temporary signs.
People will be people.
And they're ripping the Omni signs as well. So I just want to be clear, it's not just the direction temporary signs, but they've been ripping. But if you see that, you let us know, because I'm on the signage committee right now with accessibility. We've been trying to keep updating, making sure the signages are not just up in the air, because I know Khalil agree with me as well as Trudy, we need to see them down and the level that we can all see. And they've all been doing more pilots on the floors, and the ambulance is on the 6th line. So Trudy, you get a chance to go on your 6th line.
No, they have been, they're putting them in, especially I call my station 68th Street, Hunter College, where all the new signage there is eye level
Yes.
for a short person like me.
I'm sorry.
Very short, I'm shrinking. So one of the joys of old age is instead of getting taller, you literally start shrinking.
And Andrew, just to be quick on new business, Carla and I did attend the Autistic Spectrum Awareness Month at Fulton Center.
I saw you.
Yes, and just want to say one thing, because they want me to say this, Carla, they're still waiting for your picture autograph. Those kids are still asking for your autograph.
The kids were great. The announcements are in stations.
Yes, and I want to make that clear for the record. I heard so many kids, and a lot of them were saying, oh
The
my.
autistic kids.
Yes, a lot of them. We have from My Time Inc., NYC Inclusion, the schools, and yes, they're all from not just one borough, they're all from all the boroughs. And by the way, there is one kids was saying, if you see Marisol, hi, your fan club misses you and they still don't like you when you retired. So I'm just telling you, I'm just a messenger on that one. I'm sorry, but I'm just a messenger, and they all said thank you, and they do want to say thank you to the PCAC team. They had the greatest time. And Andrew, they want to say thank you as well as the chair of TRC.
Thanks.
But since you mentioned it, and
Hold on
Tara,
a
I think
second.
about the autism, just that we should, I don't know if we want to send a letter or something, but we should be on record of saying how wonderful it is, the program that they did. And Tara, I know you had a big part of it on autism and children with, and you are a part of everything.
We are definitely on the record on that.
It is so on the record. So many places.
I know she did, but the rest of our organization,
The mapping department.
she was there and she was
Couldn't
wonderful.
believe it when I saw that.
No, I watched it on.
I have to run this aboard briefing now. Sorry.
Okay, if there's any. Okay.
Sorry.
Any other, any
6
other?
more minutes.
If
Any
anything
new-
really important that I learn, I will spread it with everybody.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any final old business?
Update on the.
That is in progress. Dare I say that the MTA's open data is too granular for our current capabilities. But I've been doing a lot of data stuff, I'll call it, and we are working on it. It's it's basically, the issue is that it's at hourly level. So to be able to compare year over year, you have to aggregate it in a way that is more advanced than currently. But we're working on it. I haven't yet released that kind of data, the MTA's more adjustable side. But it is in the pipeline.
I know we saw Jason hands up, but we're gonna be doing the upward part.
Yeah, sure. Jason?
Yes.
So I'm trying
Mute.
to give him a second, because
It's Jason. Jason's had his hand up.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm here at Fulton Street Transit Center. I'm doing okay. For those who are asking about me, thank you. regarding the meeting, it went very, thank you for everything. One thing that I want to add, the bus lanes at Flatbush Avenue, it is a bad idea. Because one thing's for certain, I live near Flatbush Avenue and there's too much congestion. And Northern Boulevard, maybe, regarding Stewart's concern regarding Farnham Road, I'm looking into it as we speak. And I've been actively working with Demetrius and his team regarding that. And they've been putting barriers in some subway stations. So be on the lookout. They've been installing them, like for example, here at the Fulton Street Transit Center on the J train platform. So they've been actively installing them. They might be installing them some weekends in selected subway stations, let's say very randomly. And federation levels in Staten Island are still high. So that's why I put in the chat earlier to request the Eagle team to be at St. George Terminal.
Thank you, Jason. We'll make a note of that.
So everybody have a great day and I'll see everybody next month.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Jason.
Anything else?
I guess, Vice Chairman, I can conclude the meeting. Unless there's anything else on. I've been here listening actively, just not being able to participate as well as I'd like.
And who are you, sir? Joking. Oh, come on, you know I'm joking. We do this already.
I
Okay.
do want to say that we will have an election next month. As we will be voting on our chair, our board representation in June at PCAC. So we will or I'm sorry, on our PCAC hierarchy or representation in June. So in May, our councils will be holding elections. So if you can't make it, please, in person, please ensure that you can send your another publicly accessible location, or we'll reach out to you with another ballot.
What did Bro want?
Great.
See you all next month.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn? Thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't have to say, I had to make.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Lisa. Bye, Bert.
Bye-bye.